Starts if you got a bad face, and trust me.
That's not good.
And then Facebook caches it.
Is that really how it works?
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this very special Photo Brigade panel with the 2018 class, is that what we should call it? Class of New York Times photography interns. We have at the end Emma Howells. How you doing, Emma?
Hi.
Gabriella Angotti-Jones and Marian Carrasquero.
Yeah.
I'm working on my accent here. So thank you all for coming. Oh, and I'm Robert Caplin, the moderator, and I'm also a former New York Times photo intern, class of 2005, which makes me a geriatric former intern, I suppose. So today, first of all, thank you to Adorama for letting us use our event space, and thank you all who have come out in person. I hope you guys can come up with some questions, because we do plan on doing a Q&A at the end. And also thank you to Canon Professional Services and Temba Bags for your kind support of everything that we do. Make sure to follow us on @PhotoBrigade on Facebook. You can also watch us on Adorama TV on YouTube, and all the socials. So now that that's out of the way, let's get to you three. So one of the things, and I know, Gabriella, you didn't bring your front page, but we all brought some front pages, because you all got a front page during your internship, which was very cool. Congratulations on that.
She got three.
Three front pages. Overachiever over there. Nice.
In the last week.
In the last week. Oh, wow. That's great. Congratulations. That's really, really cool. So this first one's old news for you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this is the second one. 'Cause
Oh, this is the second one.
I liked it more.
So let's see it. Let's show your front page here. What do we got?
This is-
An Apple Store front page?
Yeah.
Nice.
It was for when they hit 1 trillion.
Oh, the 1 trillion
Yeah.
mark. Very cool. Very cool. Well, so let's go ahead and just sort of throw out some questions here. A lot of people are curious, because the New York Times kind of is one of those pinnacle internships, right? This is one that I think most people would want to have and get to because of the location, the name, and all of that. Can you tell me sort of what your process, we'll go through here and talk about your process. Oh, you know what I should do? I should have you introduce yourselves first. Duh. Okay, seriously. I'm used to doing a one-on-one podcast,
Yeah.
and so now it's weird. I'm a panel host. Okay, so let's start with Emma. Can you give sort of a description of your background, how you got into photography, and I'll show a few of your pictures from your internship?
Yeah. I'm Emma. I have been photographing since high school. I was always photographing for the campus newspapers. Worked my way up from there to an internship at the Ohio State Fair, which led to an internship later at Tulsa World in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Columbus Dispatch, and now here. I go to school at Ohio University. And
Bobcats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And
Exactly.
yeah, I'm a senior there. I'm graduating this December and figuring out what's next after that. But
Very
those are
cool.
some of my images.
Some of your pictures from the internship, and obviously this is just a small selection of those.
Snippet.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad to have a fellow Bobcat here on the panel with us. Very cool. All right, Gabriella.
Yeah. My name's Gabriella Angotti-Jones. From California. I've always done photography, but I pretty much found it like 2 years ago after I, okay, hi Mike. After I was doing an internship at the Ocean Institute, because I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I realized that there's a real gap between like ocean science knowledge and like the general public. And I was like, hey, like photography is a perfect way to bridge that gap and really like introduce conversations in a different manner. So from there, I like applied to the NABJ student projects. Shouts out to NABJ, and I got in. And from there, Kim Todd and Denise Keenan and Akili Ramses kicked my butt, and they were like, "You're actually good. You should try." And I was like, "Okay, I'll try." And for there, I interned at the San Francisco Chronicle with the help of Leah Millis, who is amazing. She now works for Reuters. And then I went on to intern at the Las Vegas Review-Journal and the Tampa Bay Times, where I was mentored by Boiselle and all those lovely people there. And now I'm here. So
Very cool. So this is your fourth internship?
Yeah.
Fourth internship. Wow. Very cool. Awesome.
Hi,
Marian.
I'm Marian. I'm from Venezuela, and I started doing photography in high school as well. after-school classes, and it just started out as a hobby. I didn't think you could actually have a career as a photographer. And then I moved to France for a year. I did a photography 1-year kind of program there, but it was mostly studio photography. And then when I got out of there, I started college at Savannah College of Art and Design, where I majored in photography, and I started doing more documentary portraits, projects. And when I got out of college, I got a production internship at CNN, which I didn't like because it was for TV. And then,
Interesting,
and then I interned at NPR with my amazing editors who are over there, Emily and Ariel.
Yes.
And that was amazing. And then I think that I started a master's program at UC Berkeley, and this is the summer between my 2 years in the program. So
Perfect. Very cool. Oh, and this was your front page,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, right here. Let's show that, how this ran, the front page here. She pointed at this camera here. Very nice. All right. Now, I told them to bring their front pages. Gabriella didn't. She's been on a project, and that's fine.
No, I'm just trash.
But oh, come on. I was reading online. They have an article. You can check it out on the New York Times. What's the name of the column?
The Times Reader Center?
Or
Times
Insider.
Insider, Times
yeah.
Insider, right, where you can read about their first time getting the New York Times front, and it kind of talks about their background a little, and it made me feel like, oh, I want to see what my first was, so I pulled mine out, and you can see mine is fairly faded and yellow, but that was my first one in 2005 as an intern myself, too, so, and this was also, look at the size difference.
so
It's got to show the
big.
size
Yeah.
difference
Yeah.
between now and then. There's like a full, the width. This is the downsizing of papers, and soon it's going to be all digital, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? Anybody talk about that at all while you're an intern, going all digital?
I mean, we did a tour of the print facilities, which was really cool, and they said that a large part of their revenue still is through print and through daily subscriptions. So they're not slowing down quite there yet, but I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people still like to actually have the paper
Feel
in
it,
their hands. Yeah.
Well, when I was going through my old clips afterwards, my fingers were all, it's like I haven't had that feeling of the ink and the paper and the, print, right?
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about your background in terms of going to school. Some of you have gone to different workshops as well. The two of you or the three of you have gone. The two of you have gone to the Eddie Adams workshop
And
so
she's
far,
going
I'm going in the
in
fall.
and you're
October.
going this year.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you can talk about what it was like going to those workshops. I'm sure you might have been to more as well. But in terms of, did that affect your decision to try to apply for the New York Times? Did you meet people there at that point? Because I know that's what it's all about, is networking and meeting people and then submitting your portfolios and so on. Can you talk about the workshops and how that helped?
I've definitely, at Eddie specifically, I had some friends really encourage me to apply, and beforehand I really wasn't thinking too much about it. I didn't know if I was ready yet or if I would even get it, so I kind of was putting it off and thinking like maybe next year or something. So someone really emphatically said no, apply, and that stuck with me. So that I think that's the most important thing, is other people who have faith in you. And when you hear that from someone else, it's a little bit validating. You're like, maybe I can do it. And then it pushed me to actually submit the application.
Sure. And how about yourself?
For me, when I went, I felt like such a baby. I just saw all these people around me, and I was like, oh my! I was just very intimidated.
It's overwhelming
Yeah.
at these conferences when
Yeah.
you see people that are all sort of at your level or just around or above.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah.
I used to get such anxiety at these types of things as well, and especially when you're at a multi-day, very little sleep type workshop,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, very little sleep.
And-
I actually applied after that, and I didn't get it, and then I
Oh.
reapplied this year. And
well,
I got
that shows the importance
Yeah.
of you may not get the internship at first. You may not. Are you talking about Eddie Adams workshop?
Yeah, after the Eddie Adams workshop, I applied
Okay.
to the Times, and I didn't get it. And then
Okay, got you. And the same thing goes with applying to the Eddie Adams workshop.
Yeah.
I know that people have applied numerous times, didn't get in, and then kept applying and refining their work. So that sort of segues into another topic. So what sources did you use to inform yourselves on how to and which internships to apply for? Like, did you have mentors in school? And this doesn't necessarily have to be for the New York Times, but leading up to.
For me, I just literally applied to everything. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Like, my mentors were just like, literally just apply for everything that's in that Facebook group, if anyone really knows about it. It's like Facebook multimedia something, I don't really know. But yeah, so I just like found anything that fit my interest and where I wanted to live, because I don't think a lot of people really think about that. They're like, oh, I'll move to Indiana, and then they're really from Southern California, and you're like, wow, I need the beach. So, you know, you have to think about that kind of stuff too. And I just was always tipped off by my mentors and my friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
And you, how about mentors? You have some mentors?
I have, for applying, you mean?
Well,
for
in
school?
college, and then we can talk more. We're going to talk more about the actual internship and mentors there afterwards.
In college, I had one professor who was like the only professor who was doing documentary at SCAD. And he kind of encouraged me to apply to Eddie Adams.
Okay.
So that's how I got there, and then that kind of like led to.
Right on. And I know from going to Ohio University myself, there's a lot of, I mean, it's required that you have an internship to graduate as a photojournalist. I believe that's still the case.
Yes, it is.
But this is your third internship also?
Yeah.
So what was the progression? Was the New York Times internship your last internship? Was it the last time you applied, or did you do the same thing that Gabrielle did and just applied to them all each year?
Let's see. Well, I felt behind because most people after their sophomore year have an internship, and I was a little late on that. So I took 2, and I took actually the fall semester off so I could do another internship. That was the Dispatch. So it felt important. A lot of people come out with at least 3, and I felt like I really needed to kind of build it up, because it usually goes, smaller, larger paper, larger, because you can prove yourself.
Yeah. While you're talking, I'm going to put up some photos from your internship application.
Oh, cool.
And these are just some of them. They're not the full ones.
Yeah,
so.
not all of them, but
So you worked your way to the Big Daddy. I did the same too.
Yeah, I think you just need to ease your way into it, prove that you're a reliable photographer, that editors can trust you, and then their recommendations and everything pushes you a little bit further and further every time.
And in terms of creating a portfolio, application portfolio, who helped you? Did anyone help you, or did you just kind of wing it? Like, that's a hard thing to figure out.
Actually, yeah, so I've got kind of my staples down. I've started to realize more what my style is. It's bright, it's colorful, it's, I don't know, weird shadows, mostly. And so I knew kind of the base of what I wanted to pull from, but then having other mentors, other professors kind of go through it. For the Times, I don't think I had people double check it, because I kind of threw it in last minute. But for Eddie, I had a bunch of people. I mean, I had Jackie Malloy look over it. Calla Kessler did an amazing edit that like completely blew my mind and changed how I looked at my own work. It was very important to get a lot of eyes on that and just their feedback. And of course, their feedback's all over the place, so it's not exactly anything that you can, like, there's not one answer, but you can factor in everyone's opinions and then make the final decision.
Sure. Gabriella, tell me about your process of editing your internship portfolio.
I basically just threw together a huge portfolio of everything that I liked, and then I had my friends look over it, like Santiago Mejia looked over it, Leah looked over it, just a bunch of other people, Angel Franco looked over it, and they just kind of made their selects, and then from there I kind of chose what I liked.
So you knew Angel Franco, who was with the New York Times for 40-some years. He was on my podcast recently, and also a mentor of mine when I was intern.
Yeah, actually,
you were there.
Both of us,
I actually met him through the New York Times Student Journalism Institute, which all students should apply for.
Oh.
You don't need to be a person of color to apply to, and I think that's a really big misconception. You just need to be for diversity in journalism, and the applications come out every fall, and it's really amazing. It's a 2-week workshop. They fly you out here and put you up. You get to work out with Times journalists, and you get to work on your own story, and you get to get mentored by amazing people like Sandra Stevenson and Angel Franco.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And what's most important, I would say, is the fact that you have you have contacts. You meet contacts at this
Absolutely,
place.
and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely, because then they can help you like they did with you.
Yeah.
Your internship portfolio.
Totally.
I did the same in terms of helping with my internship portfolio, I ended up, former staffer Vincent LaFerre was at a workshop that I was at, and I ended up asking him about, what portfolio should I do? And he really helped. He told me to drop my 100 favorite photos on his server. He was shooting the World Series somewhere. I don't remember where it was back then, and he ended up helping me craft a portfolio specifically for the internship application for Michelle McNally, who recently just retired during your stint there. So, Marian, how about you?
I applied with 2 long-term projects that I had worked in during college, and those were kind of constantly evolving as they were long-term, so I would edit them with my professors and my classmates, and at the end I just received a lot of feedback at Eddie Adams and from editors at other places that I worked at, so I just think it was the fact that these were solid long-term projects that I had received a lot of feedback from a lot of people and kind of formed the selections that way.
So this one was specifically a long-term project you worked on, yeah?
There's 2 different ones.
Oh, there was 2, okay.
Yeah, this is the first one from the drag queens, and then.
And how long did you spend on that?
On this one, I spent about 6 months.
6 months on it.
Yeah.
And was it published, or was this just for?
It's not. It was for school.
It was for school.
Yeah, for SCAD.
But it certainly helped with obviously your portfolio and your applications and so on.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. All right. So I am curious to talk to you guys more about your what it was like, I guess. What your average day as an intern was like. So obviously at the beginning they give you have to sort of get the ropes. There's what do you call that? Orientation, that's the word, which is kind of boring, how to use the systems, right? You want to just get in there and start working, right?
They do a scavenger hunt.
Oh.
So.
Did they give you scavenger hunts?
We did a scavenger hunt all throughout the city.
That's changed since I was.
Yeah, they try to make it fun.
So yeah, let's. Why don't you guys, Emma, you can start. What was your day? Or you guys could all just jump in at any point. But what was your day like? A typical day?
I mean, there wasn't much of a typical day because everything was different every day. But I think the best part is that we got to work for so many different desks. So we did a lot for Metro. Metro was great, naturally, since we're in the city. But we had the opportunity to work with a lot of other desks. So I did a lot for arts and leisure. I did some work for business, and being able to work at a place that has so many niche, topics, themes that you could kind of invest in and find new photos for was pretty interesting. I didn't really ever expect to be shooting for business, but I ended up really enjoying it. I love the editors there, and it was just a good collaboration. So yeah, you get an assignment.
Did you guys typically go into the office every day, or did you get the call to go out? How did it work?
Texts now.
Yeah, we get texts.
You get a text from an editor.
Back in my day, we had a pager.
Yeah, just a text from an editor saying hey, are you free? What are you doing at this time? Can you be at this place? And you say yes every time.
They would throw things at us, and we would catch whatever we could and kind of try to manage our schedules.
Yeah, we tried.
Time.
And then some of you had longer term projects that you've been working on. Can you tell me a little bit? Did you go down to the border? Was that what it was?
So my first assignment, actually, the second day I was at the Times, Morgan McCarthy came up to me and she's like, hey, can you come talk to me in 5 minutes? And I was like, sure. And she was like, would you be willing to go down to the border? And I was like, yes.
The border, yeah.
And I hadn't shot anything for the Times yet. And she was like, don't be scared. We really like your work. Don't get nervous. We don't think that there's a way that you have to shoot, but just go do this. And so I went and photographed the asylum seekers they had been camping out in Nogales in Arizona, in the Arizona-Mexico part. And it was amazing. I was there for 3 days. And Simon Romero, who was a reporter on this, I met with him for 20 minutes before he left. So he was like, these are the hot spots for the story. I have to catch a flight, and he just left. So, so I was like, okay, and I just
that's got to be intimidating because your
Yeah.
first time on assignment, and it's not for any local yokel paper
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
There's anything wrong with it. It's for the New York Times, right?
Yeah.
So and I read a little bit about that in the article, that it was, maybe you had a phone call with an editor, right? Was that you? Maybe it was one of the other photographers. No? Okay. Don't listen to me.
Only texts.
Only text. That's it.
So that's really cool. So
Yeah.
and so obviously you speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So that was probably a
Yeah.
plus for having you go down there as well,
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
could
yeah,
communicate real well
definitely.
with these
Mhm.
these folks. Let's see here. So Emma Harris was asking what visual or photography internships did any of you hold before the New York Times? Obviously, we did talk about some of these before. Do you think that your experiences at the internships previously really led you to the New
Yes,
York Times?
yeah.
Like, do you feel without those
Oh yeah.
you
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
have made it?
Yeah, because so much goes into news photography that you can't really plan, like not stressing out at the last minute and like things changing, and like working at a small newspaper where everything's just constantly in flux and like staffs are really cut short. Like you just really have to work with not a lot of resources very quickly, and I think that like that really prepares you for any type of situation.
Nice.
Yeah, like I would be shooting at some of my papers like 4 assignments a day, which I mean at this point, at the times it'd be unheard of. But like for it's just this hustle, this grind that you have to be on, and I feel like that really helped me learn how to get things done.
Yeah.
Get things done. Make sure I'm in communication with my editors the whole time. Because when you're even more stressed at smaller papers, I feel like that just paves the way to be able to work more smoothly at this point.
What was it like to get your first picture published in the Times? Do you remember that feeling of just? I mean, there's something about getting your even if it's not the front page, like Emma's gotten 3 or 4 times. but I mean, there's something about getting your first publication right in the paper. Do you remember that feeling? What was it? Do you remember when it was? Like, do you have a story for me? Anybody?
I do.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I left my apartment because someone had sent me a picture of the page, but I hadn't seen it in person. So I went to the store. I went to 3 or 4 stores, and none of them sold the Times. But I finally found it at a newsstand, and I think I just stared at it and just
Yeah.
and I think I told a random woman on the sidewalk, I was like, "This is mine." She's like, "What are you talking about?" With the picture. She's like, "Good." She was pretty excited. But
You get to do that only once.
yeah, I was like, "This is the first time." It's very exciting.
That's great. Yeah. Anyone else?
For me, when I got this A1, actually Hillary Swift, who's a freelancer for the Times, was doing a story about the print plant, and she was there the day they were printing this. So she sent me a video of this being printed.
Literally coming off the
which
press.
is really cool.
That is super cool. She should have stolen the actual metal piece.
Oh, we got those.
Oh, you got
those? Yeah.
Man.
Stealing.
You didn't need to steal it. I had to steal mine. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that was really cool. We got the metal plates for our pages.
For me, my front page was for the Pride Parade, and I just thought I just messed up that shoot. Thought I did such a bad
It
job.
was a stressful day.
It was, yeah. We just kept getting barred from places, and
Yeah.
people kept messing with me, and I was just whatever. And then the next day, Megan Lorem, who's the DOP, was like, "Oh, you should come to my desk," and I was like, "Oh no!" And she's like, "I got this print plate. You got the front page," and I was like, "Okay, cool."
That's definitely good. So, Jeffrey, online, for all of you, what was your favorite experience, and what was your least favorite experience, and what did you feel? Oops, let's see here. I just closed it. What did you feel you learned? I don't know. I keep it from your experiences in New York Times intern. Do you have any favorite or least favorite experiences? Crickets.
Okay.
She's got one.
I don't want to jump in every time, but I shot the Sunday routine, which is I had wanted to do a personality centered piece, so I got to spend all day with this lovely couple, and it was. It's just wonderful from beginning to end. We jived. Everything was going smoothly, and it just felt like a wonderful time to really meet two people and spend the whole day with them. And I really felt like by the end of the day, I really got to know them. And that just felt like a true connection. So I remember I was just like coming back on the train just beaming, because I was like, wow, it was such a great day, such a great experience. I love these people. And that's my favorite part of the job, is getting to meet people. So that was maybe my favorite experience overall.
Uh-huh. Any other favorite experience or least favorites?
My favorite experience is probably I got to go to Northern California to do a story on kelp, and which is coming out in a couple weeks. But just the fact that I got to work on an ocean story, I was lit, and I got to do underwater photography, which was
wow.
like really scary.
Well, do you have experience doing underwater
No,
photography?
I had to like learn it on the fly. It was really great, and like, but like I'm used to the ocean, so it was like fine. I got to hang out with like really rad divers, and like they got to tell me really insane stories about killing marlin with their hands, and it was just like, it was just fun.
Nice.
For me, I got to go to Guatemala to photograph a mother that had been separated from her son. And I'm actually going tomorrow to Houston to go photograph the son who's has his court hearing.
Yes.
So that like whole story and like kind of being able to follow it through and having it be put out there, because I think it's so important, has definitely been my favorite.
Can you tell me a little bit about how your internships, because you've all had other internships, have differed from the New York Times?
Mm-hmm. Like, what do you mean, like how they were like?
Have they? I mean, maybe they haven't differed. I mean, in terms of, I know that when I, like, for instance, we both did the Columbus Dispatch internship. Obviously, it's a smaller metro. Maybe you did 4 assignments a day for them, whereas you did less for the New York Times. Maybe there was more mentorship at one or the other.
I mean, the Dispatch has a very healthy photo staff, so I feel like they've still got assignments under control. Tulsa was, it was a much smaller staff, and so yeah, so it was just, the volume was a lot higher of what I had to do every day. But other than that, I mean, I feel like most newsrooms function pretty similarly, I'd say. Like, you're going through editors. There's just a lot more editors at the time.
Honestly, if I'm gonna be real, I would have to say it's money. Like, the Times has a ton of money. And like if people have,
We call those resources.
Yeah. I'm sorry, resources. We're being PC. But no, but really, like, when newsrooms have money, they're able to tell the stories that they can, and the reporters aren't stressed out, and they can just do their stories and not feel any pressure. And then the photographers can actually have time to go tell those stories instead of getting brought on like an hour to shoot. Like a casino or whatever. But like,
maybe you just answered this question, but one from Sarah Steer says, what was one aspect of working for a global publication that surprised you or took some time to adjust to?
Yeah, for me it was like the amount of money.
The money!
I was like, there's so much.
And the speed, like the fast pace of it.
Yeah.
I had never worked at a newspaper before.
Uh-huh.
I worked at CNN Español and then at NPR, which was more of a photo editing internship. I got to shoot a lot, which was great, but not as much as... This like pace is just like crazy. It's like every day a different assignment, and and nothing has to do with anything else. It's just like all over the place, but it's amazing.
Right on. I should mention we do have a nice crowd here, probably 30 or more people. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. We can ask them. We got some questions flooding in on Facebook, and he's trying to show me ones on YouTube. It's hard to keep track of it all, but feel free to raise your hand if you got a question. Just keep it brief because you don't have a. All right, let's go ahead. New York Times style. Is there a New York Times style?
Well, I think what I've learned at this internship was that it's not per se a New York Times style, and they don't even want you to shoot like the New York Times. They want you to shoot like yourself. So every photographer that's here is shooting, they're hired, especially like freelancers are hired for their style and what their eye brings to the paper. And so that's why what I think kind of elevates it is it's not that standard idea of a newspaper photograph. It's the photographer behind it. So you can see the photographer whenever you see an image. Like, I mean, I can see an image by Chris Lee, and I'm like, that's Chris's image. Like,
it's blurry. It's Chris Lee.
Chris is in the house too. To see Chris.
But like it's beyond just the photograph. I think it's more about who's taking it and what them as a photographer adds to that assignment.
And that goes for students too. Like, I don't really think students are encouraged to like follow their own eye and where that wants to go. I think they want to ascribe to shoot like someone else. Just like trust yourself.
Yeah.
That was something that I was trying to get at that I read in that article. One of you were told by an editor, that's why you're on
Yeah,
it, right? Was that you?
Yeah, that's what, when I got that border assignment, Morgan sat me down and she's like, don't be nervous. Don't think that the New York Times has a style. We don't. We want you to shoot how Marian shoots and just do that.
And that's
So-
one of the things that I think I've learned over the years is that editors choose people for the job for a reason. Whether it be your style, how you interact with people, maybe it has to do with being a fluent Spanish speaker to go down to the border, etc. Just to be yourself, and you don't want to try to shoot like someone else. You want to shoot. To fulfill yourself as a photographer, I think you want to shoot for you, not shoot for someone else. Although now you're going to probably go into the freelance world where you might need to start photographing for clients in a specific way. You'll have those, but I think that as you develop your career, people especially start hiring you for what you do as a photographer.
Yeah, and I think that's how people kind of find, like, when you're asked to do a job, it's because of the work you've already made. So.
And that goes also maybe into your internship application portfolios. Because I remember it's like, oh, I've got to have singles and then 2 stories and this and that, and I got to have some sports and perfectly. No.
None of us have sports in our portfolios. Like,
I might have like one.
Maybe.
Oh, you Bobcats, right?
like, you don't need to subscribe to that. Like, that's kind of BS. Just tell your stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like a wish list anymore. I think it's you try to like go through all of your images and find ones that sum up you as a photographer, and then you're presenting yourself not these images, but like this is the look you're hiring, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Got a question here from the great Kathy Willens, AP. What is the best advice that do you have for fledgling photojournalists in regards to getting good internships?
I would say find a good mentor that
Find a
can
good
help
mentor.
you really hone your vision and will like edit you for you and not try to edit you to someone else. And I think that will help you narrow your vision and you'll get where you need to go.
Yeah, and I also think like shooting a lot and starting small and then like climbing your way up is also.
Always shooting. I mean, it's practice.
Yeah, shooting all the time. Yeah.
So back in my day in college, we started with, what are you laughing at? we started with film. I think I was the first, believe it or not, I was the first student at OU to go digital.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being teased, but what it let me do was shoot a whole lot more than the other students who were, at that time, it was like, this week shoot 3 rolls of film for this project or whatever. Now I could shoot hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rolls of film without having to worry about the cost and the developing and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel that, I don't know if any of you really shoot film or have? This guy is over here.
My brother brought 4 film cameras for me for this next 2 weeks so that I can shoot film finally, because he's been telling me for years to really try it out. So I don't shoot film until 2 weeks from now, and then I'll have a good film portfolio. Maybe I don't know.
Well, say goodbye to your bank account, because that costs money to develop. Oh, and you can buy your film here if you want. So,
I have 2 related questions. First of all, does the Times compensate you in any way?
does the Times
yeah.
compensate you?
Also, whether published or not, pictures you take, are they your property or the Times?
And the pictures you take as an intern, are they your property?
I'm pretty sure they're owned by the Times.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. As an intern, they're staffers.
Yeah.
So as a staff photographer, you are working for them, so they own those photos, right? In terms of compensation, you all got paid,
We get paid.
It is not an unpaid internship.
which is good.
And it's one of the better paid.
It really
Yeah,
is.
you
It
can
was
live.
back in my day
You can
too.
live in
You
New
can
York.
live, yeah.
You can eat.
You can eat and you can live, so it's enough.
Eat some good stuff, not just pizza and ramen, right?
Yeah.
There was a couple more questions. Make it loud, make it short. Go ahead. Sorry.
One of the things that I always find really is the best part, is the trickiest part of this photography is spinning all that narrative.
Yeah.
That's one shot, that's a one photo. I feel like at times it's a huge narrative. Right? How do you do that now? What's
How do you cram in a narrative into a single photo? Is that what you're saying? Because typically you're shooting for a single photo. Yeah.
For me, I usually don't take pictures until I feel like I fully absorb the situation, and like I make sure I do research ahead of time, and I talk to the reporter, and I hang out for a bit before I start making images. And a lot of photography is not really about like shooting, it's about like waiting and just kind of like seeing how it goes, and like being a person before being a photographer.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand the story, like Abby said, and then go into it with that kind of mindset.
Gaining trust of your subjects as well, you know,
Yeah.
right?
Being a real person.
How was that at the border? I mean, did you feel like you were, like, was there any kind of strangeness?
So
Did you take a beat before you took their photos?
Simon, who was a reporter, had actually already interviewed a few people, so he kind of made that first connection for me, and he kind of introduced me. But then I just kind of sat down with them and like talked to them and asked them about how they had gotten there, and just like had a conversation before even taking any pictures, which I think is really important, having them like relax and know that I'm also a person who's here to understand what they're going through and not just like come and take pictures and leave.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. Another question, shout it out.
Yeah, so I'm just a casual photographer, but I was submitting photo scripts for my university newspaper for Kicks. And then they're like, so do you want to be our photo editor until you graduate? And I just said yes without thinking, but I honestly don't know what to do. So would you have any advice for me, please?
Would you have any advice for this photographer who took a job or an internship as a photo editor?
Yeah, they were just like, we like you. Can you do
But that's not what you do. You're a photographer. And is that what you're saying? Yeah. Do you have any advice for someone to get a job like you?
Well, I mean, I would say like I'm so glad that I was on like both my high school and my college paper. I spent a lot of time there, both photo editing and shooting, and I think that helped me build my portfolio. If I didn't have all the campus stuff, I mean, just around OU, I wouldn't have been able to get the Tulsa internship because I wouldn't have had work to show for it. I mean, the stuff I was making in class is good, but like it's limited. But when you're shooting all the time, and getting these random assignments, and sometimes as a photo editor you get to shoot, depends on how big they have the staff at the school. But I think that was one of the biggest things that propelled me to really making work and pushing and growing as a photographer, was just having to go on these daily assignments that aren't even necessarily that great. So it's a bit more of like a struggle to make these classrooms look interesting, or shoot something that's been shot a million times, still kind of new. And it was a good challenge for me.
Nice. Good. Any other questions over here? Go ahead, yell it out. Do you think that film has what? Still, do you think that film or analog still has a place in photojournalism?
Oh, maybe not. Okay, never mind.
Do you guys? Do you
Guys,
guys think film or analog has a place in photojournalism?
Yes.
Still.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, go. You go ahead.
You go.
No.
I just wanted to say that actually there's a few editors that are looking for people and projects that can be done in film, because there's such a different like feeling to it, and it still is like being used and appreciated, even at newspapers.
Obviously, it's longer term assignments. You could never file something on deadline.
Yeah.
Actually, you
Yeah.
can. I had a friend who shot something on underwater cameras, and I think turned it around like the next day or something, and got them published pretty quick. But that's
Okay.
out of the ordinary. Like, you don't normally do that.
That's
But yeah, for like daily assignments, no, just because there's not anywhere that turns around that fast. But for longer term projects, it's pretty common, because if that's what you're comfortable with, or if it's the style you're going for, it makes a lot of sense. There's some stuff coming up that'll be really cool in film that we can't talk about.
I happen to remember when I was an intern there, it was the other building, they're in a newer building now, but they had an actual photo lab. So photographers used to be able to get their film developed right on site.
Not
Fred
anymore.
Conrad, he's retired now, but he used to be my mentor, and he did a lot of, I remember I actually shot a whole assignment on a Holga,
Whoa.
photographing the 9/11 memorials all around the city that were still up since that had happened.
That's cool.
And that was fun. And I guess, people like Damon, Damon Winter uses film a lot.
Yeah.
And he actually was one of my mentors at my LA Times internship. He used to be at the LA Times, and just amazing. I mean, there's just amazing staff photographers for sure. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. You. No? Okay, Chris.
All right. With every like year that internships come, you know, you see like the new generation of photographers entering the workforce and everything like that. And someone that works in news photography, also, I see like progression and changes happening, usually for the better. As like y'all that are entering like the freelance workforce and going to be the future of for lack of a better term, future of photojournalism, what would you like to see change or progress, in the future for y'all? Whether it be like culturally or industry practices or anything like that.
So what would you like to see change in photojournalism as the future of photojournalism? Because Chris and I see all these interns come in every year, the new generation of photographers. What do you see as the future? What do you hope changes?
You want to go first?
Oh, okay. I mean, I have to say, like, there's been a great trend towards women, personally. Like, this is the first year, I think, that we've had with all female interns, and that was great. And we work with many female editors, and I think that I've never been in a newsroom with that situation. Most of my editors have been male, and I love them all, but there's something different with working pretty majority women, and I think I feel more comfortable, and that's been a great shift that I've seen, and I don't think that that's necessarily going away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just hope that our industry can continue to condemn sexual harassment and racism, and that we can welcome more women of color with open arms and promote them and reach out to people who are just getting started and just like really give them a chance, because I would not be sitting here today if it weren't for like a team of like badass women who are just like, we're gonna bring you up and you're gonna do it. So
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with this. And also, I think there's something to be said for like steering away from like the traditional photojournalist, like I'm gonna record what's happening now,
Yes.
and more of
Tell
like
the
I'm gonna
story.
stop and like analyze the situation and like make a beautiful photo of what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we're kind of steering towards.
Mhm.
Yeah, away from the traditional narrative
Yeah.
of the gallivanting photojournalist.
Exactly.
Like,
Shooting at 16 millimeters.
Yeah.
God, yeah, there's,
And like
yeah, there's,
1DX.
So based on your experience at the Times, do you see yourselves coming back to New York to work?
I don't think so.
No.
I would like to. Maybe.
Well, you're from here, so.
No, I'm not. Well, I'm from the East Coast, but yeah, I'd be interested. I've fallen in love with the city. I used to hate it. I used to talk crap about living in the city, but then I moved here and that all changed.
It's not all bad, huh?
Oh no, I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
loved everything about it.
Got to find yourself a good neighborhood to live.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was an intern, I got an apartment like on 42nd Street and the West Side Highway. So that was
What?
like a terrible location, but it was close. That
Yeah.
was my thought. But anyway,
Wow.
I soon found better neighborhoods
Yeah.
That
than
sounds
that.
terrible.
Okay, so oftentimes photojournalism students are told A plus B plus C when it comes to putting together your portfolio. How do you differentiate yourselves from the pack in the industry?
Don't do that. And have like personal projects that you care about and like really invest yourself in. And I think that is so much more valuable than just having like a portrait and a sports shot and like a protest. I think that having like projects that you really care about and invested yourself in is how you differentiate yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just show your passion through your photos in your portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So someone asked on YouTube, how are photojournalists tackling digital preservation? So how
Oh no.
you have an answer for me?
What you mean, like archiving?
Archiving, I believe that would be.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm literally the worst person to ask that.
Well, at the Times they have a routine, right? You
Oh, yeah.
upload them all to the cloud or something now.
Yeah,
right?
they've got a system down for their photographs.
Yeah, I don't really know.
But
what it
you
is.
guys don't
I
necessarily
mean,
have
I
that
just
yet.
have a bunch of hard drives.
Hard drives, yeah.
Yeah.
My friend Michael Noble, he has like a bunch of hard drives all around the country because he's crazy.
Oh yeah, you
Not
gotta,
crazy, because I do that too. So listen,
you gotta stash them.
you got to stash them. I mean, it really is crazy to think. My archives personally have turned into something like 25 to 30 terabytes worth
Oh my
of
God.
stuff, because I've taken video too and done
Yeah.
lots of projects, and probably some redundancy too in there that I don't want to clean up. But I have a RAID system that carries all of that. But what if that RAID system breaks, right? You got to have backup to that.
Yeah.
And you got to have it backed up not on a RAID. So what I did was I made drives, individual drives, and then I sent those drives to Ohio,
Yeah.
my mom's basement,
Yeah.
just in case,
Yeah.
something were to happen to something here. And I also use Photo Shelter, and I basically upload lots of my stuff there. So that way, at least I have my selects and that kind of stuff too. But it is important. I know you make fun of it, but yeah. So that is difficult. Yes, sir.
40-year photographer, shot film, everything. Google, I discovered, has this thing called Google Drive or whatever.
Google Drive, yeah.
It was like $10 a month for up to a terabyte, and then they sent me an email, we're doubling it, it's 2 terabytes for the same $10, upload right from the computer. So I have like an external time machine I have up there, and then I keep it somewhere else. And I print, nothing like
Google
print.
Drive,
Prints
yeah.
will last forever.
Yeah.
So that's actually something interesting. I did see an article about, one day our JPEGs aren't going to register or something. There's going to be some sort of
Whoa.
digital kerfuffle. I don't
What about the
understand how
raws?
Digital
this can happen.
kerfuffle.
But, some people say like having a backup of prints, actual prints, so that you can scan them and have them. Could you imagine?
Best 1,000 shots, print them out,
Yeah.
by 10, you're all set.
You're all set. Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes, someone in the back. So make them quick so I can repeat them.
What's next?
Yeah. That was actually one of my questions. Yeah, what's next now? Now that you finished your internships, what do you plan on doing?
I'm going back to school, graduating from OU in December, and then figuring things out. So maybe it's New York.
TBD.
Yeah, TBD entirely. So if anyone knows of
If you come to,
anything.
are you think you might just wing it and just find a place and just hope that you get the work?
I'm debating, and so I'm from DC, and so it kind of makes sense. Like I could freelance there potentially because make some money living home, that type of thing, or just try it out in New York. I mean but I really think I'm kind of being pushed to freelance. But if anything else comes along, I've got no ties anywhere. Go anywhere.
If you need something shot, call.
Yeah.
I took an extension at the time, so I'm going to be here till November. And then after that, I'm going back to California to tell California stories.
California to do what, you say?
California stories.
California stories.
Yeah, probably around the ocean and like ocean science and stuff
That's
like
great.
that.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah.
And I still have a year of school left too at Berkeley, so I'm going to go finish that up. And then I want to move to Latin America.
Oh, okay, yeah. Move back home? Or
No,
just,
not back home. Venezuela's really complicated right now.
Yeah.
But maybe Mexico, maybe Colombia, I don't know.
Does coming from Venezuela impact the way that you tell stories? Or
Yeah, definitely, I think.
Yeah.
Unconsciously it does, but
Terry online has noticed that you're all women photojournalists. How do you think that impacts impacts the images you make, if at all?
that we're women.
That you're women. No.
I would have to say like I get more access as a woman. Like people just like don't take, and I don't want to say they don't take me seriously, but like they do. They like simultaneously do and don't take you seriously. So they're like, sure, you can get away with it. Come hang out with me.
Underestimated, I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
all the
that's a
time
good
people
word.
just don't think you're, I mean, they don't believe you're working for the Times.
No.
If you want to show it, you have to prove it to them. But yeah, they just think you're just some girl with a camera, like, oh,
Yeah.
is this for a school project? You're like,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is for a school project.
But also, like, more seriously, like, I think we've all gotten more access to a lot of stories because we're young women. And for me, especially, like, and you, like, as young women of color,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Do you shoot every day?
Do we shoot
Yeah.
every day? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions? Yes.
Do you think after the internship you still have hurdles to get over, and what would they be that path?
Did you hear that? If so, repeat it.
After the internship, are there still going to be hurdles to get over?
Or was it during the internship were there hurdles? Oh,
Well, I think you always have hurdles to go over no matter what stage in life you're in. So I think definitely, but I also think we learned a lot, and it was kind of like a really fast way to learn a lot in like a really compressed amount of time. And now we kind of get to go back out there
yeah.
and apply it.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be like personal hurdles, like can I do this or can I not do this? But I think this internship for all of us was a huge confidence boost because we were so supported in our ideas.
Oh my
and
God, yes.
It's like kind of ridiculous, but like amazing. So,
Yeah, gave us more faith in ourselves.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that goes a long way. Being confident in your work.
Yeah. Especially as a young person.
Yeah. It's very easy to feel like nothing.
Who am I?
Any other questions in the audience here? Sorry, go ahead. Got you first.
So I'm assuming that the New York Times is a paid job offers to interns.
I can't hear you. Sorry. What's that?
So at the end of the internship, do the New York Times give job offers to the staff photographer, or do they just pass it out?
Are there job offers that come out of the internship?
I mean, you tell me.
We'll see.
No, I mean, we're just here to learn, honestly.
Well, I mean, yes, there are. I wasn't hired, but I did the extension like you did as well. But I think Chang Lee was an intern.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
So there are interns.
He worked his way there.
Yeah, worked his way up, and so there are sometimes. And I think
Yeah,
it's
they haven't been hiring much of staff photographers recently, so I'm not sure if there's room right now.
and that's
but-
another thing. How do you all feel being new to the photojournalism field with what's happening to the press, right, in terms of how they're perceived by some people in the political world, and then also with sort of the I don't know, paper readerships dwindling and advertising running out, and it being a kind of climate where they're not hiring a bunch of people right now.
They're hiring them differently, freelance.
As freelancers,
So
sure.
like it's not that there's fewer images being made, it's just maybe not by staff photographers as much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, there's still work.
Yeah, there's work to be had for sure.
Yeah.
Do you worry about that at all? Like, I mean, are you guys hoping to move into, do you see yourself in the next 5 years becoming freelance, or are you thinking, oh, I want to find a staff job where I have a sure, bless you.
For me, I'm just gonna keep taking pictures, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, just go with the flow,
Hopefully, I
right?
make money. I don't know.
Yeah.
Same, I agree with that. I'm like, I love my job, and I just want to keep doing it, and whatever it is I can get for it, I'll do. Well, yeah, but I would be fine with freelancing. I think but like we were talking about, diversify who you work with.
This is something we were talking about before the panel started, because when I did my internship, I ended up just sticking around New York City, becoming a freelancer, diversifying, not just working for the New York Times, but working for other publications, and that way you're diversifying who you're working for. You're not, because what happens is, you mentioned different photographers or different photo editors on different desks,
They move.
which means different sections of the newspaper has a certain desk, and they move around
A lot.
or they take another job elsewhere. So there are, if we look back to the staff of the New York Times photo editors in my time, a couple of them moved to be director photographer to the Wall Street Journal, director of photography, Sports Illustrated, other photo editors all over the place, which then lead to working with those publications.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole other realm of if you're a freelancer, diversifying, like photojournalism versus commercial versus advertising and weddings and whatever, because you got to make money somehow. And if you want to keep doing projects on kelp, for instance, yeah, give me that kelp work. If you want to keep doing that, maybe it might be hard to find someone to fund that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's millions of dollars offered through the Foundation Center. You just have to go and look it up.
Okay, so that's a good. Well, so for grants and things like that. So have you guys applied for grants at all?
Not yet.
But you plan to. Okay, so
Yeah.
I've never applied myself for a grant.
Really?
So, but we did have a panel. You could look it up online of grant writing.
Oh, no way.
Panel.
I will actually. I watched
Yeah,
that.
make sure to check
I'm
that
curious.
out. It's online. Let's see here. I got another question. Okay, this kind of segue into one of my last questions too. Can you make a full-time living as a photojournalist today, especially with social media being around? This was going to segue into my question about social media, I suppose, because we didn't really so much have Instagram and all these different things in 2005. How important do you find social media? Does it help you, or do you think that it's changed the way? I don't know where I'm going with this, I guess. What's your thoughts on social media?
She can answer that question.
Emma's the guru.
Yeah.
I enjoy my Instagram. I feel like there's certain people I look up to, like Kendrick Brinson, and she's got a very active Instagram presence. And so I get to see a bit of what her life is like outside of just photography, but I also get to see behind the scenes in some of her sets. I get to see, what's the work look like of being a photographer without just the pretty images at the end. And I've really loved that aspect of Instagram. I think it's good for self-promotion. I feel like, I'm not sure if I'm necessarily getting work off of it, but I'm definitely getting eyes on my work, and that's something that I
editors,
appreciate.
have you found that any of your editors keep track of it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I've certainly gotten not a ton, but I've gotten some jobs from
Yeah.
it, which have led to.
And I think it also keeps your name out there being relevant. Like, it just shows that you're always making work. Like, sometimes, people might forget that you're out there, but you just send them like, look, I've been working on this project for the last 6 months, and here's a little teaser image. And so they just know that you've not been just sitting around watching TV.
Yeah.
Like, you've actually been out there producing stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Maybe one of the last questions here. Go ahead.
Speaking of social media, I follow all you guys on Instagram.
He follows you all on Instagram. That's great.
You're all such really grown photographers right out of the gate. Like, you all have really clear and strong voices.
Thank you.
Like, as a 22-year-old shooter myself, I'm insanely jealous. My stuff's all over the place. I guess my question to you is, have you ever been tempted by video or writing? And if so, how do you explore that while also showing that you're committed to photojournalism as your resume?
Okay, so have you used video or writing, and how do you use that to?
Or how do you explore other interests while showing potential employers that you're still committed to
Yeah.
I actually am tempted by both. I minored in creative writing in college, and now I'm doing my master's in documentary film. So I just think it's all part of learning how to tell stories and kind of adding different ways of doing that. And your writing can complement your photography. And I think if you're, like for me, you just have to keep shooting if that's what you want to do. But it doesn't mean that if you do video or if you write, you are not a photographer anymore, or that you can't just keep shooting. But for me, I love visual mediums, and I think learning how to write is really important. So I think it all just goes hand in hand.
And that's only going to make you a stronger visual journalist or artist or whatever if you have multiple skills. Like, just think of, Childish Gambino and how he literally does everything. So, just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like people aren't looking at it so much as, separate things like multimedia as, it just feels like it's just a new aspect of the story that's been added on, and if you can do that, it just adds.
Have you used any multimedia on this internship? Has it been strictly stills?
Yeah, it's strictly stills because they have a video team.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's right, yeah.
They have their own interns.
Do you count Instagram video as multimedia?
Oh, yeah, we can do social.
Did a lot of Instagram stories.
Really?
Yeah, for the newsletter, the Summer in the City newsletter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing
But you see, that's
Insta videos.
I mean, I remember them starting with Instagram and stuff, and now they're really using the stories
Oh, yeah.
and
Super
everything.
cool.
So it's crazy to think, when you look back in 5-10 years, how dated Instagram's probably going to be. There's going to be something else out there that's new that you have to adapt to. But I think that having a broad skill set's really important. I mean, you never know what job you might be offered or a freelance gig or whatever in the future. And then your background. So you had a non-photographic background
Yeah.
in college. Some people are anthropology or business majors as well as getting
Yeah.
in, and that's informed
Yeah.
informed what you are interested in covering,
Yeah, absolutely.
like sea life.
Exactly. And
Kelp.
kelp.
Kelp,
Mostly
lots of
kelp.
kelp.
Just kelp. That's it.
Okay, so I think that that's it. We've gone over an hour, and is there any? We should also. What are your websites? How can people follow
Oh.
your what you're doing, your Instagram and so on?
Nice. So my website is just my name. It's emmahowells.com, and my Instagram is at emmajoyhowells.com. It's my full name. It's fun.
Mine's GabriellaAngotti-Jones.com, and my Instagram is Gabriella, but there's a dot between the A and the B because I'm extra.
All right. Very good.
And my website is my Marian Carrasquero altogether .com, and my Instagram is Marian CAA.
Nice. RobertCaplin.com, at Robert Caplin. And then, of course, at Photo Brigade, thePhotoBrigade.com. Check us out, Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of fun stuff. Thank you all for coming out to
Thank
this
you.
this
Thank
great
you.
event. I
Thanks.
really do appreciate it. I wish you guys the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out as well, and thank everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again next time. Take care.